How's it going, everybody? This is DH Thorne. I thought it might be interesting to do a video showcasing some of the manifestation captures that I've gotten on camera of spirits or potentially spirits on camera. So I'm going to be showing you a couple of video clips in a few minutes that we're going to go over. I'm going to do a voiceover commentary for them. But I want to discuss briefly some of the things that you should be looking for. If you're doing demon sorcery like I do, you can expect everything from nothing to full-bodied, full-blown, solid physical manifestation of the spirit. Okay? Now, obviously, a full physical manifestation of a spirit is a rare, potentially once-in-a-lifetime event. I myself have gotten variations of that. I have gotten disembodied clouds of energy that would move around. You could see them clearly. You could put your hand through them. I've gotten shadow people, which are very physical manifestations, pillars of light, things like that. I have had happen on several occasions in my lifetime. However, the vast majority of manifestations that I've got that were physical were either of poltergeist style activity or signs in, say, smoke, flame, or mild auditory signs. Mild auditory signs would be something like where you say, if there's a spirit here, could you please, signify it with a sound, and something will happen. Like you'll hear a knocking on the table, or you'll hear a shout in the middle of the woods, where you are when there shouldn't be anybody, or a daytime animal will suddenly make a sound that shouldn't normally. You'll get some kind of a weird interaction. In fact, the subject of spiritual manifestation is something that is very subjective. Everybody who's experienced it can tell you that if they weren't there, they wouldn't have believed it. And a lot of what you're experiencing is going to be very much of a synchronistic nature. In other words, if a skeptic was viewing it or seeing it or watching the tape of it, they'd say, oh, well, that was easily explained by X, Y, and Z. And they're very right. It is easily explained. One of the ones that I often think about is when I was working with Nicodemus, and I asked him for a strong audible sign, and that he was listening to me. It was kind of, one thing you have to remember is a lot of times when you're asking for a sign, if you're advanced like I am, you don't need a sign. You can feel the spirit around you most of the time. But if you're feeling distracted, low energy, or something like that, sometimes you do say, could you give me a sign, just so that you can connect to the spirit. Especially the first time that you contact the spirit, I find that getting a physical sign or some sort of manifestation that is undeniable, or a vision or something, helps a lot to connect with the spirit, because you're not always instantly tuned into them. So for Nicodemus, it was kind of a little bit of vanity. I was saying, please give me a strong audible sign, because as a familiar, it's not a request, it's a command. With a familiar, it's not like a demon where you're insulting it by asking for a physical sign. This is a servant. Now, I respect this servant. Nicodemus is a very good familiar. I'm not here to abuse him. Some familiars are meant to be abused, which I will be including either in my book or in an add-on with familiar creation. Some familiars are meant to be, literally your slaves. Like when the spirit brings it to you, this is a kind of punishment for the spirit. It is being enslaved by you, and it's also a learning process for you to test your ability to command and control things. So that's another video for another time. But my point is, I was making a command request of Nicodemus to give me a strong audible sign, and I was pumping a lot of energy into him to get him to do it. And I waited about 30 seconds after giving him the command, and I wasn't getting anything, and I was like, well, I should have had something, or I should get something very soon. I'm about to give up on this. Some people will wait a long time. I don't think that's really appropriate. I think waiting about a minute is pretty good. Any longer than that, and it's too much of a sample size. Any weird sound could be the spirit, you know what I mean? And that's giving it too much room. You want to make it concise enough that it really is synchronistic. So I was a little bit more than 30 seconds, and I was about to forget it when all of a sudden a train blows past my house going faster than normal, and the train whistle goes off. It's like blaring the whistle right as it hits my house. Now, you don't know where I live, obviously, but where I live is right next to a train track, and periodically throughout the day, you'll have a train go by and it blows its horn. Now, normally it blows its horn several hundred yards down the tracks, if not more. It blows it quite a distance away, so it's more of a distant, horn sound, and then sometimes it'll blow it again after it passes the house. Well, this was unusual because it blew it right as it passed my house. But I didn't want to accept that as a sign, which was wrong on my account, because I'm thinking to myself, well, Nicodemus, he's not going to just, he's not going to make a train appear, you know. Pardon me, I got phlegm in my throat. He's not going to make a train appear. You know, it's not like he's like some higher order spirit that can manifest a train. So that train was already going to be going by, so I wasn't really going to count it. And then I realized, well, yeah, the train was going by. That's why it took him 30 seconds. He had to make sure the train was in the right position so that he could make the conductor or whatever caused the horn to go off. So in other words, it had to use a very logical and material and mundane way to carry out my command. It wasn't going to just manifest the sound of a train or the sound of a hurricane or the sound of a dog barking out of thin air. It has to cause that to happen. It has to cause that in the material world in order for it to happen. So I discounted this as a sign, and then I realized that was a very valid sign. Just like that, when you're looking for signs in your work with spirits, don't discount things just because you can explain them. Most of the time, the explainable signs are the most valid ones because they happen in a synchronistic manner. And if you're not sensitive to synchronicity, you need to do meditation, you need to open your third eye, you need to learn to sense these things. You know, a lot of people don't realize that when we're talking about opening your third eye, it's not that you're going to suddenly get vivid visions like a TV set in your head. It's more along the lines of recognizing things that already are visible to you. So, and everybody's a little different. Some people do get very strong visions. But for the most part, what opening your third eye means is not that it's like you switched on a TV set in your head and now you're getting a picture-in-picture thing. It's more along the lines of you're looking at a situation and now you recognize the symbolism and you recognize the synchronicities that happen within them. When that starts to happen, now your third eye is opening or opened all the way, and you start to see signs and symbols in everything. Everything becomes an omen, everything becomes a synchronistic event. Not everything, but very frequently. Instead of like once in a blue moon, it's like every other day. You'll start to see in the pattern of the clouds, you'll see messages and things. And you have to be very careful because it is actually possible to open your third eye too much. It is possible to overcharge that chakra and ruin your vision because now you're overactive and you're inventing things instead of, it is possible to have a chakra functioning too well. So you always want to maintain, as Waylon and I often say, the sorcerer Aramana Sul, we often talk about the spirit of discernment, this idea of being able to tell the difference between a real event and an imagined event, or somebody lying or not, things like that. You have to have a spirit of discernment. You need to be able to tell. That is also based very much on that chakra, and the rest of your, like your throat chakra in particular helps you judge things and helps you make decisions like that. So when we're looking for manifestations, we're looking for anything that's either out of the ordinary or in synchronistic correspondence to your requests or commands or working. So if I've mentioned this before, I think in my review of Vine, I asked him for a strong audible sign, and what did I get? A bunch of dishes in the drying rack just like suddenly settled, made a loud clank. Things like that will happen. Well, anyway, in the videos I'm about to show you, let's get around to the point of this. In these videos I'm about to show you, you're going to see a sequence of different things that are subtle but confirmed manifestations on my part. The first one in particular is very strong. It's the ritual I did around Samhain of 2018. And I did it actually on Samhain. And it was a ritual to Nyarlathotep where I was casting a group ritual. This was with a few other sorcerers, and we were attempting to bring forth some judgment against certain pedophiles and false accusers and rapists and things, both in the broad spectrum of society, but also some that we know personally that we were trying to have happen. And I will report that so far it's been a very big success because it was meant to be an ongoing thing that doesn't end. And we're seeing more and more of that happening all the time. The Catholic Church is having some problems again lately, aren't they, with their pedophilia stuff. So I believe the ritual was a very good success. Now, during this ritual, you will see, I'm going to do a voiceover and a little bit of commentary for it, but you will see, if you're sensitive to the energy in the situation, even through video, you can sense a lot of this. You should be able to sense when there's a crescendo of the energy. You'll also sense and see with your eyes this energy building in the scene. You'll also see what is, I believe, a camera glitch. And like I said, I'm going to do some commentary on it when I roll the footage. That this is a glitch of the camera based on a couple of things. The camera is a little foggy from the humidity, and the camera, of course, the way it processes the light creates lens flares and all kinds of things. What is interesting is not that it created a lens flare, it's that the shapes it takes, the positions that it's in, the way it follows a certain pattern, and it literally looks like a light is coming from my throat, heart, and my upper area, cascading down into the fire and sucking up the energy from the offering. So we'll talk about that in the actual when I do the review of it. Then during a live stream recently, I had pointed out during the live stream that the smoke was behaving in a way that is typical when there are spirits involved. It was attracted to me. It was swirling around me a certain way. And sure enough, during several sequences, there were some what I consider legitimate captures of spiritual movement. Now, you could say that this is all coincidental, that this is just, it's just like seeing shapes in clouds, but this is the third eye I'm talking about again. Yes, it's a shape in the clouds. It's a random shape in the smoke. The fact that it looks like something could be a coincidence, but there's a synchronistic element to it. The fact that we were talking about this, the fact that I was just charging stones. When I was doing that part of the video, I had my I had my incense going, and I had this. I've done reviews on this on my channel. This interesting little thing. It's I don't know, Sway or something like that. It's a aurora generator, so you can actually get some really cool effects on your ceiling. And if you have your incense smoke blow over it, you can get some really cool, almost like you're in one of those plasma ball toys. You get some really cool effects with it. And so as the incense is burning, I'm figuring, you know what? I haven't done this in a few days, weeks, whatever. It's a good time for me to charge and clear some of my jewelry and some of my crystals. And I was doing this one, which is Sutek Amun, I think is how he likes to say it. I'll put a link in the description to his Instagram. Maybe you guys might want to buy something like this off of him. This is his own personal style of copper wire wrapping. It's a Tektite and a Moldavite right there in the middle. You can't really see it too good. It's an interesting piece to me because of the feel for it. I call it like the Heart of Darkness because it's got a black Tektite and a Moldavite, which is a type of Tektite, and it's got a very interesting energy feel to it. Then I have. I ran through a couple. This is one of my pride and joys. This is one that I made myself. This is a rather expensive amethyst point. It's about $15 for this point. For amethyst, that's expensive. Usually it's like a couple, like $1. And I wrapped this one. This is actually meant to be symbolic, as well as when you're holding it, you can actually press your thumb into that and complete like a circuit sensation when you're using it. This one will never be for sale. This one's my personal, I love this one. This would be a couple $100 easily. I love that one. It's a very powerful crystal. I use it all the time. So I'm charging these during this live stream, and as I'm charging them, I believe that I am unwittingly basically inspiring the spirits in my home to partake in the event. And they don't mind showing themselves on camera this way because, again, this is not an obvious manifestation. This is not a spirit just appearing next to me and saying, "Hi, how you doing?" This is a waft of smoke that takes on certain shapes and behaves kind of in a peculiar way. So let's cut to the footage. I'm going to shut up for a second. I've already talked too long. Let's get to this footage and let you guys, see what's going on. Okay, let's see. All right, so here it is. It's dark, obviously. I have a bonfire going as part of the ritual. I've already conducted several different things, and I'm coming back into the area to speak to the spirits. Now, I'm going to evoke Nyarlathotep in what I'm saying.
Nyarlathotep.
Of course, I'm saying his name a little bit differently here. I hadn't quite found out how he preferred it.
Black Pharaoh.
You'll notice that it's very calm. There's
Soul of the outer God.
no wind to speak of, no animals. You can see by the way the fire fairies are moving there. It's very calm. You'll notice that as I speak,
on this
get a little bit of a flare up, just normal,
Samhain,
nothing unusual.
the Sabbath.
can sort of see me in the background there.
Yarlathotep, I come and erect this fire in your honor. A blaze in the dark spaces between. And upon it I cast my will.
This is
So that
important.
in the
Upon it
fire
I
and
cast my
smoke,
will.
my will can be carried.
Because when you're
into the
casting your
world.
will onto a fire, you are putting your energy into something that manifests a physical and a metaphysical event. And you're starting to see the energy is going to start picking up in a moment.
There
You'll
are
see.
many people in this world who are rapists, pedophiles,
Now listen for the
and
wind.
false accusers.
You see the fire beginning to stir? You can hear the
I
wind.
wish to see them suffer. I wish to see them pay. I wish to see them fall. In your name, mighty
Very
Yarlathotep,
obvious.
bring forth your vengeance and your wrath. Bring into this world a
You
refuge.
can hear it in my voice. Now you can also see that the fire is creating a lot more of a
I have in my hand
glare.
a humble offering of sacred wood and smoke. I give this on behalf of myself and all those who would see this thing done. And I ask
Of course, I'm doing a group
that you
working.
give us a strong sign of your acceptance of these terms. Yarlathotep.
Several bundles of incense. Nothing
Consume this offering.
out of the
Yarlathotep,
ordinary. Now,
here
look at
before
this.
us. Yarlathotep,
Of course, it's flaring up because it's burning,
come
but look at the
before
shape
us.
of the lens flares. Look at the shape of the glare. You'll see shapes that look like human figures. You're going to see all kinds of things.
Soul of the old ones.
You'll notice
The crawling chaos.
right
the
around my
black shadow.
chest what looks like almost like something is pulling in the light, the energy, or pumping it into it. It's hard to tell. I've never seen this on my own videos before. It gets much more apparent in a minute. There it is. It's pretty strong.
The smoke that carried into
A
the
plane
world.
starts flying over,
May
of
my
course,
energy
which is
flow.
a little distracting.
And may those who share with me this dream of vengeance and justice.
There's the plane. Somebody joked that I should edit the video and have it sound like the plane's crashing, as if the plane's being cursed. Now you're going to see it's going to continue. It's going to stay intense, and then you're going to notice that it will also just suddenly stop, even though it should still. There we go. That's a very strong flash of a figure. Very strong flash of a figure again. So it dies down a little bit, but now you'll see it's going to. If I remember correctly, it gets interesting again. Just watch.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting my gift. Please remain with me by my side by this fire.
So you see how it's calming. Of course, the fire has consumed the offering, so there's not as much glare going on, but
Yarlathotep.
that's it. So what's interesting there is, again, how it calms. You hear there's no wind. The flame is very still now, back to the way it was. It was very interesting how the wind came up right when I was pumping the most amount of energy into that, and that's what's important about that part. All right. Okay, a little bit of context. This was during a live stream, and during this live stream, the subject of physical manifestation came up as I was charging crystals with the incense smoke, and I started to notice that the incense was behaving intelligently and was acting around me as it sometimes does during a ritual. And we get a couple of interesting captures here. I'm going to repeat one of them twice because it's very quick. But you're going to see right here I chop the smoke, and when I do, what looks like, you can kind of see it there, is very quick. Kind of like a physical apparition of like a person hunched over, almost like Nosferatu or something, with a hand reaching out and like a clawed hand. I'm going to slow it down so hopefully you can see it better. But it's right near, it starts off obviously in the smoke on the bottom left, right about here. You start to see the head. There's a hand reaching up to my ear. It almost like it goes into my ear. Now that's in front of me more than behind me or next to me. But in other clips, it's going to literally go and frame my face, my head, wrap all around. If you were watching the stream, you'll know. You can see it doing all this. But there it goes again. And we're going to show it one more time in slow motion. There it goes wrapping around my head. Like splitting like a serpent's tongue to go around me, and it was doing that through a lot of the stream. That happens to me a lot when there's a spirit trying to interact with my energy. So let's see, I'm going to show it one more time. Okay. So this next clip is from the same situation, and you're going to see a very similar spirit again. This time it's going to look like a head is being formed and is almost like biting at me, and it's reaching out for me, and when it dissipates it's going to like encircle my head and all this other stuff. And this one actually does go behind my head a little bit, so this one wasn't just coming in front of me, it was coming at me, and I could see it and feel it, but I wasn't sure if anybody else could, so I didn't want to really make a big deal of it, but it was pretty interesting to me. So let's see what happens here. Make sure. Okay, so I think I got it on slow-mo here if I remember correctly. So you see the incense is just kind of like wafting around my head, and there it is, right there. It almost looks like, I think I'm going to rewind it in a second. Let's give it a minute. You'll see it again. So you can see it wafting around my head. You can see it framing my head. At some point I'm going to put my hands up because I felt it. And I'm talking, so of course I'm talking with my hands right here. But you'll see it's almost like it's going between my hands. Like you can see it's going from my right hand to my left. This, whatever it was enjoying, I guess, the energy of the situation. And then, of course, it dissipates and it decides to do what it wants. But you can see it's like, so in some moments it's in front of me, and it's just maybe coincidental. Other moments it will wrap around like the back of my head. It'll circle under my chin. Especially if you watch the live stream, it really got it. There you got like an interesting swirl, and my hand, like I'm batting it away a little bit. But there we go. So it's very interested in me. This is, again, some of it's in front of me. You can see the bits going behind me. It happens to me all the time. Let's see, I think I rewind it here. Let's see. We get to see it again. Okay, yeah. So you'll see, like, of course the air is disturbed because I just moved, and then it settles down, and then just out of nowhere you're going to see this, like, head just roll up with arms, like, reaching out for me. And here it comes. There's the head forming, there's, like, the hands going right to my face, and it's almost like it's just reaching for me, trying to touch me. And I think we're going to cover that again. We're going to go through that part where my hands are interacting with it. There it is again. Just see how it just reaches for me. Let's see. I don't know what I did here. I was just kind of replaying it over and over again so I'd have something to talk about. I think I go back to normal speed. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to play it once more. So that's normal speed again, so you can see how quick it is, but how obvious it is. Now could that, of course, just been a current of air? Of course it could. It could be nothing. But if you were watching the video, the context, everything else, there's definitely something going on. And boom, and I'm like turning away, like, what was that? And you can see I'm kind of looking at it. My eye just kind of shifts to it, like, what the hell was that? Because I'm distracted. I don't know exactly what's going on. Here it is again, swirling around my head. Here it is grabbing for me again. We're going to play it a few more times. This one was, to me, in a way, one of the more strong ones. And again, it's on the left-hand side of your screen, just over my right shoulder. And any second, you can see, boom, there it is. What does it want? So, you know, yeah, of course, that could just be a current of air. It could be nothing. There I am charging the crystal. You can see what it was doing. Of course, nothing might be happening. There might be nothing special here at all. It might literally just be, you know, just random gusts of air, but this is happening over and over and over again during this part of the stream, and these are the two most obvious ones. Now, I've had people watch this and look at the pictures from it, and they were very, very, very adamant, like, oh, I see one there, I see one there. And these are people who see them all the time. Sometimes I think they're just kind of like when you look at faces in a cloud, they're just kind of picking things out. But, you know, what can I say? You can see them. It's definitely there. I think, here we go. Do I show it one more time? No? Okay, well, that doesn't matter. So that should be it. Let's move on to the rest of the video. So what did you think? Did you think that these were just coincidental? Did you think that these were too subtle to count for you? I'm sure that some of you out there will think that that these were all just, you know, coincidences. They don't really count. Some of you who've practiced magic enough know that this is exactly what it should look like. Some of you can see through the footage that it's real. Some people, either because of experience or because your third eye is open, you can see the synchronicity of the event. You can see the meaning of it. You can see and hear the energy, especially in the Samhain ritual. It's very clear, especially in that one, because that one is intentional, whereas the one with the live stream wasn't so intentional. That was more incidental. And you don't always have to be doing a ritual to get a spirit to talk to you. You don't always need a sigil to get a demon to manifest for you. So keep in mind, these things can happen at any time. That's why when your third eye is open, you notice them. But what did you think? Did you think these were valid captures for you, or do you think that these were just coincidences, lights of, you know, trick of the light, trick of shadow, trick of smoke? What do you think? Leave it in the comments. Just be kind and polite. That's all we ask. If you don't believe that this was a valid manifestation, go ahead and say why in the comments, and that's fine. Nobody here is being dishonest. I'm not being disgenuine. I am never going to tell you that this is what it was. It was definitely a ghost, and you have to believe it. You're more than welcome to interpret what's happening in any way that you want. This is more educational, informative, and honest. I'm always trying to be honest, and not just honest, but authentic. More than anything, I want to be authentic so that you can really get an understanding for how these things work in your practice and in mine, and in a genuine practice. You know, a lot of times you see in spirituality on the internet, you see a very kind of, we'll say, canned kind of spirituality that's very often staged or otherwise, you know, is questionable. I want to be as authentic as possible. That doesn't mean I won't occasionally do interesting things or have some floor show going on, especially if when I start selling my services for ritual, I'm going to have a little bit of a floor show. I want you to be inspired by what you see, but by the same token, I want to be authentic. I never want to present to you something and say, this is definitely that, and I know it, and this is I want you to make up your own mind, and I want you to understand that I am as arrogant as I am. I'm also sensible. You know, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I want you to decide on your own, because if you do decide one way or the other, then you are empowered, and that's what I care about. I want you to be empowered, not to try to follow me. Does that make sense? Anyway, this is DH Thorne doing a video for Dark Sorcery as usual. Signing off. Good luck.